Hey people, today I want to talk about tube amps, specifically how I personally dial in the master volume of my tube amp. So basically this video is about tube amp saturation, the power amp section. Now, in my late teens, when I first entered a recording studio to record a demo with my band back then, the studio owner kind of imprinted in me the idea that you absolutely need to push your tube amp almost like, not to the limit, but you have to push the master volume section, the overall volume of your amp to a specific point, and that was quite loud. So you get that certain kind of tone that he was talking about. I didn't really understand what he meant back then. I heard that kind of like a rumor again and again back then, that that's the way it has to be done. You know, you have to push your tube amp. Let's find out if that really is true, and what I'm personally doing today, and just, you know, in the 20 years that have passed since then, what I've found out to be true for myself. And I'm curious what your experiences with this topic are and what your opinion is. Write it in the comments below. So let me show my clean sound right now. It's kind of like this AC/DC crunchy kind of tone. Just a Les Paul Maybach going into my pedal board. No pedals turned on right now. Going through a Voodoo Lab pedal switches, so it should be a really nice and clean signal. It's going straight into my old Marshall back here. It's 100 watt, what do you call it, 2003. It's basically a JCM 800, but, you know, with that plexi kind of housing. And yeah, it's going into an aux box, so I don't have to mic it, and I'm not blasting out my ears or bothering my neighbors or anything. And it's going into computer, straight out of the headphone output of the Apollo into the camera. That's the tone that you guys are going to be hearing. So right now, let's see. My Marshall is at about 12 o'clock with the master, and the preamp is not dialed up that much, and I already got a nice and crunchy tone. Now, if I was to go to the extreme that I was kind of that I had in my head, that you have to push your Marshall all the way. Like, I've heard that so many times, and you know, you can even see on certain footage Jimi Hendrix doing that, you know, turning all his levels of his old Marshalls to 11, and I think there's even footage where you can see him doing that. So it's not a rumor. In fact, you know, rock stars back then did such things, and there's an interview where Eric Clapton is explaining exactly the same thing, that he did such things with his Marshalls, with his Blues Breakers back then. So let's see what happens. I have to admit, it is a fat sounding tone that we're having right here. Let me put on some pedals to get even more out of this. I'm gonna put in, I think I'm gonna put a Boss ST1 in front of it just to cut out a little bit. Oh, it's getting that thinner and a lot more noisy. Okay, let me try to put in words what I am hearing and feeling with this kind of setting right here. Now, I haven't touched any of the EQ settings of my amp. I know what you're probably thinking, but on this Marshall specifically, like, the EQ is doing almost nothing. So I'm not, they're all at about noon, and I'm not gonna touch them. You're just gonna have to believe me that that's I think most often with old Marshalls, the EQ is just not doing much. So I feel a lot more compression, a lot more distortion, not really that much more volume actually happening. And that's the good things. The bad things, a lot more woofiness and kind of this harsh treble thing that I'm not enjoying too much right now, I gotta tell you. It really got this. It's really got balls. I gotta admit that. So let's try the opposite thing right now. Let me back off on that master volume and see how the amp's gonna sound. I'm not touching the preamp or anything, just the master volume. I'm not really getting my amp to clean up that well, but that frequency-wise, there's a lot of stuff happening right here. Like especially now when I'm playing single notes, I can hear it's a lot cleaner than before. It's a lot more quiet. It's a lot more quiet than before. See, that sustainy, ballsy kind of thing is just not happening here at all. But now I can go ahead and let me turn on my Mojo pedal that I got right here. One thing that I like better with this setting is the frequency. It sounds more open. The setting before, it kind of had all that woofiness, and it was just too much of those bass frequencies, and it was like a filter cutting off the high end almost. Here it's a lot more open, this kind of clean sound, and put on some pedal, Mojo. Use different pedals. Let's try the BB preamp. Now that one's not fitting that well. What about the Boss? Similar, just too thin. So completely different approach right now. I basically try to set my amp to be as clean as possible for that Marshall, and now searching for a overdrive or fuzz pedal or dirt pedal that just fits to this kind of sound, that makes it sound more beefy again, but just in a more controlled fashion. So right now the Marshall is more like a pedal platform, I guess what you can call it. For me, actually, any amp is a pedal platform. It's just you have to use it in a different way sometimes. So now we had like both extremes. We had the Marshall dialed in completely cranked. We now the second time put down the master volume to make it as clean as possible, made it a lot quieter. Now I want to show you the sweet spot setting for me that I like on this Marshall. Okay, so as you could just, what I just did was I dialed up the master volume and it's at 1 o'clock right now. I could feel that the amp was getting that growly, pushy kind of sound, that sustainy sound, a lot more volume. And from this point on, if I push the amp even more, it's not getting any louder. There's just more distortion happening. But with that, sadly, a lot more muddiness and woofiness in a really uncontrolled fashion that I, for my sound, really don't like. So this would be the sweet spot for where I would dial in my Marshall. And it's a loud sound, so I'm happy I have my aux box set up. I can now, you know, I'm back to the beginning of the video where I have this just really nice AC/DC kind of crunch tone. It's a really thick and rich tone, but I can still dial back on my guitar you know, tone volume, not tone volume, volume party. Get kind of a clean sound, and I can add different dirt boxes like a fuzz here. Now I can, you know, I have a little bit more of a platform where I can just experiment, add in a BB preamp. So this is the BB preamp plus the fuzz. That's why it's huzzing. If I want more accentuation for speed picking stuff, I can put in the boss. If that's not enough, you know, just add different stuff. It's a good platform, yet it's not a totally clean sound. It gives me enough feeling safe to play my kind of riffs and my kind of music. That's how I like to set it, you know. Try to find, for me, that would be the sweet spot of the amp. So, conclusion of this video. I don't believe it anymore that there is a must of how you have to dial in your amp. The sweet spot that I showed is the sweet spot for me. If at any point of the video you were like, okay, the master is totally cranked, and that's the best sound for you, then that is the best sound for you. If you like your amp to be as clean as possible and then add all the dirt with your pedals, that's an awesome way to do it. I mean, and it depends on the situation. If you're traveling a lot, if you're having a lot of gigs, fly gigs, and using different amps, not taking your own amps because you just can't do it, you have to use the amps that, you know, are provided by the festivals or the clubs or other bands you be sharing your equipment with when on tour. It's probably a better thing to do is, you know, get all your sounds from the pedal board and just have a clean amp. And then, because, you know, it's not gonna matter as much from gig to gig what amp is gonna be there on that stage. So that would be the better solution for that kind of situation. I'm not in that situation. I'm at home in my cozy room. I can take I have my aux box. I can dial in the perfect, you know, for me, perfect kind of sound with that amp. To get just get that amp working a little bit and to get that sound of that amp. That's the conclusion of this video. It's all personal preference, and for me, there's no such thing anymore as you have to dial in your amp this or that way. There's so many good ways you can go. Let me know how you do it. And put some comments in the box below. Subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching this video. See you in the next one.